Okay. Hey, how you guys doing out there? There we go. Hang on a minute. Yeah, that's right. There was no sound for the first couple of minutes because, well, you know, there's a lot that goes into these productions. A whole lot. So, let's say take two. Welcome to How We Roll. How you guys doing? A whole lot out there. I am Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying, hey, what's going on, guys? And I just found out this is sort of a take two, so guess what's being cut from the introductions when we actually go in and re-edit this. I am Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, and welcome to How We Roll. What's going on out there? Thank you guys very much for tuning in, showing up to the show that gives my autobiography on what it was like to be a gamer and how I became the person that I am today as far as your cinematic sorcerer and gamer nerd. That's right, sometimes I even bully myself. And we got a really good show for you guys today because we are going to cover the years of 1992 and the years of 1993 because this was the blasphemy, the true blasphemy of the place that really helped me open my eyes to being a gamer nerd. All those years I tried finding my stride. 93 was one of the years that really came out. But before we do all that stuff, let's handle some business. We got to pull up our keyboards and send me questions and comments and all that stuff at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's backinthedeck@gmail.com. Thank you guys for tuning in on the YouTube. Make sure to roll a natural 20 on that subscribe button and then back it up by hitting the bell. The older gamers will totally get that reference there. Find us on the social medias like Twitter and Instagram and all those other places that you look out there at Back in the Deck. That's at symbol, which I really haven't learned the name of because I know the and symbol is called the ampersand. Back in the Deck at, that's at BACKINTHEDECK. If you happen to be on that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, then feel free to join our open to the public group, Deckers on the Book, because if you're watching this and you've watched more than one episode, you're a Decker. You know. You know who you are. And of course, if you guys don't like looking at this handsome face, but you do like the sexy nasaliness of the voice, you can always go to soundcloud.com/BID_P and you can listen to all 7 years of our backlog for all of our shows that I've been able to put up on the SoundCloud. And if you're like me and you're stuck in traffic because, well, this is Southern California or New York or Austin or Seattle or Las Vegas, but what are you doing driving the Strip? I don't know what you're doing anyway. But if you are like us and you're stuck in your car for a good amount of the day, that's easy. You can download the MP3 for free and listen to it at your leisure. Alright, now if you guys really want to help us out in a more personal manner, in a direct way to help us keep the lights on, then head on over to patreon.com/BID_P and check out the Patreon where you get the entire archive of all the shows that we do. Ironically, except this one because the Patreon is where like the really exclusive people go and all that jazz. So you can see all of our other shows in full, uncensored, unedited, and all of their glory. You can be part of polls. We send you guys toys. And if you guys really want to tell me the stuff that you guys want me or anybody else here at Back in the Deck to cover, become a patron and you get that right. A lot like our higher up tier patrons. Again, how can I put this? Yeah, this is me begging for money part. I'm sorry, and I should make this shorter, but I'm not gonna. Ha 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 ha. But Our tiers start at $1. They go all the way up to $100 because, hey, if you've got that kind of disposable income, I ain't mad at you. But I will say, just for as little as $1 a day, that adds up and that really helps to keep the internet on and the lights on and all that stuff. Or you can be like two of our major patrons right now. That is Mr. Paul Mansfield and good old Boom, that Shannon Boom Boom Lay, known as Boom Chicka Boom Boom, over at the Twitch channel. And those guys have hit the $20 tier, which means I got to give them a shout out at every single show that we do. That's our Thursday show, our Friday show, our Saturday show, our Sunday show, our Monday show, and our Tuesday show. I do this almost every day for you guys. And if you guys want to see how I do this every day, or 2 to 5 times a week, truth be told, then head on over to twitch.tv/BID_P, and that's where you can catch our live things as they happen. And of course, how can I not talk about our major contributors to all of this stuff? All you guys out there that are watching, we love you guys. And all you guys that are talking, say hey to NP City. What's going on, NP City? Oh, we got Ganja in the house. We got the Vixen. We've got Boom. How you doing, Shannon Lay? Thank you guys for showing your support and bringing friends and all that jazz. I do like the music. I hope the music ain't up too loud. But let's give you just a little bit of a recap. But thank you guys. And again, if you guys have any questions, comments, advice, don't blow up my cell phone. Just send an email to backinthedeck@gmail.com. Just look at all that stuff. Y'all kids can do all that little screen capture, so I'm going to let you guys do that. And with that, I'm going to say thank you guys very much. Now, here is my question, guys. For those of you guys that tuned in last week, we talked a lot about the summer of 92 and leading into 1992, where I got to watch my city burn, and then I got accepted to the high school of my choice. Now, with that came a whole lot of adventures, and I'm going to put this out there right now. I am not the, what is the term I'm looking for? I wasn't the model high school student. Actually, I was a fantastic model of a high school student. You know, I had a model of myself in class that my teacher saw more than I did because I ditched a lot, especially after 1992, where I lost my main influences that kept me going to class, even if they had to pick me up and carry me there themselves. But my closest friends graduated high school in 1992, and they left sort of a legacy. Now, last week, I told you guys about how I met the bear. And the bear and I, you know, again, we did that thing where I accidentally jump kicked him in the hand, and we became fast friends. But he was a senior when I was a sophomore, when I'd finally gotten there, and he was gone. Now, but because of his words, he left me a good legacy. But he left me the legacy of, you know, the dude that made me the musician that I am, the dude that made me angry and resentful. No, I'm kidding. He gave me one of my other older brothers and my most beloved younger brother. And, you know, he was actually my mom's first big white son. And that was, and of course, that was about the bear. So, I remember last week you guys were like saying, hey, yeah, no, we demand the bear. We want the bear on the show. Did you guys still want that? Because I might have to make a phone call or anything. Just leave a comment over in NP City. So, as I was saying, that year, it was a summer, and I spent a lot of time at the bear's house. And, wait, what's that? There's a knock on my door. Hang on a minute. And what do we got here? Oh, we were just talking about you, man. Let me introduce you guys to the bear himself, Mr. O'Dwyer. How you doing out there, man?
I'm doing fantastic, brother.
What? What? Don't turn me to Dave Chappelle. Turn it up. Turn it up. I can't hear you. Turn it. Oh wait, yeah, I can't hear. All right, yeah, just give me half a second here. I gotta do, yeah. I know you guys are like, man, you need a sound guy. Well, as soon as I get enough patrons, I will have a proper sound guy. But in the meantime, um, yeah, how you doing? Turn it up.
Turned up.
Turn it up. Turn them stuffs up.
Turned up.
There we go. How you doing?
All
yeah,
right.
We have the bear himself there. Say hey to everybody over in MP City.
Hey, everybody out MP City. How you guys doing today?
Yeah, so there we are. We got the bear himself that came in for the show. Now, I seriously, like I said, I listen to you guys. I got on the phone, and I'm like, you know what? Since I was talking about this dude and his mama, I figured I'd have.
Did you talk about my mama?
Yeah, I was talking about your mama.
I know, and you said really awesome things, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I don't make anything up. I literally just talked about the woman and, how the future of Brienne of Tarth kind of put me in my place more often than not.
Yeah, is it bad that I had to look that reference up?
Yeah, you totally lost Nerd and Zeitgeist credit. I mean, really, seriously, that's terrible, man. That's terrible. So yeah, but we're here, and
and by the way,
yeah,
this shit never goes away. I still have a fucking.
You're killing me, man. Yeah, you're killing me. Seriously, bro. That was, let's see, it's 2019. We were talking about 1992. So that was 27 years ago, bruh.
27 years ago, shit still hasn't gone away.
Yeah, 27 years. You realize the people that were born that year have kids now. Just saying.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
A lot of the children of people that we went to high school with are starting to have kids now.
Yep, we're grandparents, sort of.
Right.
But with that, 1992, 1993. That was a weird summer because you had just graduated Hollywood High School, and we had the summer of doing special effects makeup for various dances, getting into adventures, joining the Society of Creative Anachronisms.
I was gonna say teaching sword fighting at junior high schools.
Yeah, that was a thing. But so over the course of that summer, I spent a lot of time at the Bear's house. There was I could talk about like numbers and lines and all that stuff as far as public transportation goes, but I was like the public transportation king. It really came down to I would ride the bus for about an hour and a half to get dropped off about a mile from this guy's house. And I'd be walking and walking and walking, going, it would be really cool if there were a liquor store or something around here so I can get a soda, because the Southern California summer is hot. So I would show up to his place not smelling the best. And we would talk about various things. We would have board game sessions, and sometimes while waiting for some of the people that we were playing games with, he would throw a sword at me and start swinging an axe shaped like the bat symbol at my head.
I only did that because I knew that you could handle it.
Oh, you only did that because you thought I could handle it.
All right, fair enough.
Thankfully you weren't wrong. But this was all part of the elaborate games of pretend that we would be playing, because role playing, it wasn't just on a table. This guy was one of the people that taught me, you could play D&D and all that stuff, or you could put this on and you can pretend to be a knight. And just put on this, you brought your trench coat. Cool. Now put on this really heavy thing over the trench coat and try and hit me in the head. And I'm talking about shinai, also known as bamboo swords, also known as the dork wands of pretend. And we spent a lot of time over the summer going over like playing second edition D&D with um, a friend that I got to know through this guy, who was what's the term I'm looking for? I'm not gonna say legendary as much as I'm gonna say infamous, and that's our friend Larry, because we all have a friend named Larry, a
Oh,
dude,
Larry.
yeah, a dude that's so creative. Um, he seems almost. Well, we didn't know at the time because it was the early '90s, but today you would suspect that he's on the spectrum. But back then he just had so much creativity and did so much to escape everything that was going on in his life. And this was your GM, right?
This was my one of my originals. Yeah. I had actually started playing D&D, and D, and I think we were playing just a D&D at the time with my next door neighbor. They had actually taken a 4 foot by 8 foot piece of plywood and scored in 1 inch squares into it and covered it in vinyl,
Hold
clear
up,
vinyl,
hold
so they
up.
could.
Yeah, hold up. You're serious? Like when you say scored in, are you talking like take a hand tool across an entire piece of plywood and just, yeah, we're gonna make these whole things like you were carving out Stonehenge or something?
Well, I can't tell you specifically if that's the way they did it because it was before my time. But it was an impressive setup. They would very often build, castle walls and things like that out of styrofoam, and really, it definitely brought the thing to life. But for the most part, we were just using, wax pencils and things like that on the vinyl. But
Awesome.
it was, yeah, that was my original introduction, and I had played with only about two other GMs before I met Larry. Although one of the GMs was the guy who I know you were talking about, Lionheart, last week. My fighter magic user, half lion, Vincent under the Cities of New York character. And that was that was the GM who he was not a very good GM, and it, and to be fair, we were all still learning the process at the time, but he was not a very good GM, and he really
Well,
really
hang
really
on.
should not have. Oh yeah.
Expand on that. When you say not a good GM, like what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, was he
He
not
lost
creative?
control of the characters very easily.
Oh.
And he should never ever ever have let us split the party because he was completely unprepared to deal with two separate storylines. Which is actually how Lionheart came about, because I was playing I was playing Hollow World, and I was playing a ranger character, and my ranger was traveling to this next town, and basically all he did was, with me and the other gal that I was with, uh our only gaming input from the GM was, all right, yeah, you keep walking and there's a couple of planes lines. And eventually, I finally had to break down and say,
Screw the
look,
lions. You're
man,
like, screw
screw the
that.
lions, just tell me when I get there. And he got angry and said, okay, fine, you screw the lions. And it happened to be in the same time frame where the other half of the party had just snapped a magic wand, and it created a retributive strike. And so that was the genesis of Lionheart. It was the child that was created from during a retributive strike of a plains lion and my ranger.
Now, when this guy told me this, I'm like, okay, I got a game with you, because most of the stuff that I've been in has been like, um, just standard D&D, Lord of the Rings. You go through a forest, you do this stuff. I hadn't played Ultima Exodus because we couldn't afford a computer, but they were run a lot like the Exodus games, and I'm like, dude, so much creativity and all that stuff. And we ended up playing like some board games and going through stuff like that, until finally, Larry had finally come over, and I put together, um, just a first level wizard because that's what we do, and I ended up getting a staff of Cone of Cold, and we got attacked by wasp creatures. And I'm like, I'm gonna shove my wand up this guy's butt, and I'm gonna cast Cone of Cold. And of course, Larry, in my first real GM lesson, figured out a way um, to make it happen. And I ended up freezing the party, and it was well, we all I think today, like in today's terms, I was trying to play chaotic good, but it turns out I was playing chaotic stupid. And but we weren't murder hobos at the point, and I learned a lot from that. And then we moved on to high school, my high school, and I'd gone back to Hollywood High, and I'd met this dorky looking 6'4", 190 pounds, soaking wet with a brick in his pocket. Dorky dude with a page cut. He literally had a page hair. He was a blonde kid with a page cut, carrying around this backpack, or not this. It was like it was really like a go bag. It was a duffel bag.
Yeah, like a messenger bag.
Yeah, and it was filled with books. And this is the dude by the name of Bill Spots. And I met this guy because he was hanging out with my friend from the previous semester, Andrew. And he didn't go to the school. He just came to the school after school. Like, all right, school's over. For most people, because the magnet kids got out an hour after the rest of the school. So it's like, we got there an hour and a half before school started, and we stayed for 2 hours after. And people wonder why I was burned out through most of the 90s, But this guy came in, and this guy was essentially a gaming store on foot. I mean, this dude had role-playing books and maps and miniatures and tomes, not pages, tomes of gaming notes. And it's like, dude, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a gamer. you know and I'm like, okay. And he started running games after school, just quick little one shot sessions that turned out to be pretty awesome, and I got pretty close with this guy. And then came the fall of TSR. Now, TSR was the company that made Dungeons and Dragons, and they were the ones that came out with the Black Book and introduced Thaco, Thaco. We could not stand
evil Thaco.
Yeah, we couldn't stand evil Thaco. Dude, really, ganja, language, dude. This show is for kids. So yeah, but seriously, yeah, and one of the things that stifled TSR was the stuff I talked about in the first episode, which were the old guard of gamers with the, if you don't already know, I'm not going to teach you. Go away and stop bothering me type things. And this mindset of, if you're, this mindset of, what, black people want to play games? I've never heard of that. Girls want to play games. Oh my God, there's a girl in the store. Hide the Cheeto dust. I mean that kind of thing. And now, when you were in a lot of gaming circles and stuff, I mean, I'm sure you can back me up on the mindset toward people of color and women. And back then, LGBT was don't ask, don't tell. Thanks, Clinton. But I'm sure you saw, even before I came around, the shock when it came to gamers meeting people of color.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was a little unique in my experience because we had the group that I first started playing with was a couple of Japanese guys, a Greek guy, and and then us, a couple white guys. So we had a pretty diverse group, although I will say it was all guys. And then when I broke out, they were a little older than I was. And when I broke out and started playing on my own and started GMing my own games, uh, there were only about 5 kids on our block that were my same age, and 2 of them were girls, and they wanted to play. So it wasn't, it was no big thing. But then again, as you know, in our household, it doesn't matter what you look like, it matters how you act. And so as long as you were cool with it, then we were playing. It didn't matter what you look like.
And that's why
But
we've been friends
I
for
have
this
to say
long.
that there are plenty of games that I walked into that were, basically dead alewives cliches.
Yeah. Where's the Mountain Dew?
Where are the Cheetos? Yeah.
But yeah, and but then something happened in the summer of '92, moving on to '93, and that was another game company came up out of the distance, just literally. You had the TSR guys that played Dungeons and Dragons, and they were like the Marvel comics, and then you had like maybe a few people playing riffs here or there, or tabletop miniatures games, and they were like the DC comics of the guys. But then you had the Dark Horse that came out. The Dark Horse company, this third comic company, this third gaming circle, known as White Wolf Publishing, and just out of
Dun dun
nowhere,
dun.
yeah, exactly. White Wolf Publishing came out with their game Vampire the Masquerade. And this game was totally different from most RPGs that you got in. Because, in Dungeons and Dragons, I'm a ranger, I'm a barbarian, I am all these different things. But at the end of the day, you were always a Tolkien-esque race set out against the forces of evil. Yes, look at all of the evil that we're going to be fighting. And then came White Wolf, where it was, we're going to make monsters sympathetic. So this was a game where you didn't play the monster hunter, you played a vampire inside the realm of vampiric culture, be it vampiric politics, vampiric day to day life. They eventually came around to labeling the world, or labeling their universe that they'd written, the world of darkness. And I'm like, oh, darkness, you say? I have a reason for wearing my trench coat in public other than the reason that I wear my trench coat in public every day anyway. Um, and sure enough, this did some interesting stuff because it was the first game that hit the mainstream that wasn't D20 based, and you didn't need this collage of polyhedral dice, nor did you need an advanced degree in statistical analysis and chaos mathematics. Um, what you ended up getting was this game where your character statistics were dots, and you would go this character statistic versus this character statistic, roll this many of this one kind of dice. And I'm like, so I just need a pile of D10s. He's like, no, I got a pile of D10s. Let's do this. And this was big because Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, starring Gary Oldman, Keanu Reeves, and Winona Ryder, had just hit the theaters that summer. So it was like lightning in a bottle, a perfect strike. And they gave like different types of vampires lifted from world mythology all over the place. And I'm like, wow, this is cool stuff. And I get to hurt people. I get to hurt analogs of the people I don't like in my life. Yes, I can be the villain, but the hero of my own story. and and this was something that really opened up the gaming gates to something new. And that new thing were the goth kids. The goth kids, and it could bring out the eyeliner wearing, Cure listening to, Susie and the Banshee cosplaying troops. some of the heavy metal kids that weren't really into D&D because they didn't really want to feel like they were playing the lute, and of course the goth girls in their outfits, you know. And this was like, you got to understand to um a guy going into being a junior in high school, this was huge. It's like, oh my god, really pretty girls in really tight clothes are playing these games. And not that I wasn't used to seeing pretty girls, because I went to a performance arts school and we had a dance department. But I wasn't used to seeing pretty girls get into the same stuff that I was into. And that was sort of a revelation for me. So I spent a lot of time playing. And I ran over to this guy and I'm like, oh my God, have you seen this new game? You can play vampires and all that stuff. And I can be like Gary Oldman, and I could be like Gary Oldman and Dracula, and I can be all creepy and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, dude, I know.
Yeah, we got it. I got people for that.
you know. And I had played this game a little bit with Bill, and I'd played a couple of things, but then came my main vampire. And I'm not going to do the normal dork thing of give you guys a breakdown of the game, because Google exists. But in the game, there is a clan, a type of vampire called the Malkavians, and they were supposed to be these tragic vampire characters, where being turned into a vampire drove them mad. They were totally driven insane. And this gave me a really cool opportunity as a budding writer and a budding creative to like examine madness, which was something that I'd lived with for my entire life, but I could like examine the stuff that I'd been going through in therapy. And I created a Malkavian by the name of Marvin. And Larry ran this game in Brian's garage. And I created this Marvin guy for a vampire campaign that we did. Now, would you like to tell these guys about the campaign? Not about Marv, just about, some of the campaign.
Well, I'm trying to remember. I don't know that I actually have a solid enough grasp on which particular one this was, since there was so much going on. And I think at that time I was doing college, and so I was kind of back and forth. And you guys were, I was more of a drop-in character for that campaign. So I don't know that I could actually give a sufficient rundown on it.
Well, I don't remember the campaign outright. We were doing just straight up like, look at us run through the city of Los Angeles at night trying to do vampiric stuff. And oh god, we got Vixen over in NP City going, fish milk, fish I say. And not fish, actually. A fish milk is a crazy vampire where a role player only knows whoop whoop woo madness, and then they come out and they're like, I'm crazy. Then they hit you with a fish and then they run away going whoop whoop whoop. But I had a vampire that would go into a berserker rage whenever he was around potatoes or potato-based products. And and
I do remember
I
that.
On, I kind of based him on Cham Cham from Samurai Showdown, the video game from the arcades. And and this guy, this guy, I put him up in, oh god, I can't believe it's a food item. And I put him up, I made him live at Berkeley. And this guy was based on, Lil Cham Cham here, because, wild anime girl who, let me see if I can get a better picture here. Oh, there, nope, not that one. Yeah, there she is. And she was, look at that. Kind of a cat girl type thing, except I didn't know that it was a girl, but yeah. And thank you, Vixen. Yes, it is a pomophobic. But yeah, and I created this elaborate backstory of him being a potato farmer in the 11th or 13th century, who, when the vampire turned him, they had their minions like beat up, beat him up, kill his family, sexually assault his wife to death, and then pull up his potato crops, beat him mostly to death, and then turn him into a vampire to keep him alive. And when a lot of the people were like in the game, they were like, "Oh, great, you're just playing a crazy person," blah blah blah. And then when I gave the backstory, they're like, "You got a dark turn of mind, dude. like, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, a little messed up. You know, at the time I didn't know what post traumatic stress disorder was, but I was suffering from it pretty hardcore. And he carried around, well, in the 70s, there used to be this thing where, you know, there is a habit in our culture of saying anything from 20 years ago was tacky and kitsch, and we'll like it because it's ironic, but really we like it anyway. We just don't want to admit that we like things that are ugly. and and he carried around a big wooden fork, because in the 70s you used to be able to buy these big wooden carved spoons and forks that you could just hang on your wall as art. you know. Yeah, I mean, you remember those, right? Those
Oh,
big,
definitely. Oh, yeah.
yeah, wooden spoons and forks.
Yeah, they were at every garage sale from about 1987 to about 19.
Yeah,
Well, I don't know. I think I've still seen some. Depends on if grandma still has them.
yeah, and we're not pretending that we got a tattoo of Jesus because the preacher might be coming over. and and yeah, so this guy was, you know, just this gnarly, crazy dude that had a big wooden fork because, you know, you stab vampires in the hearts with wood and you get an advantage. So he had like this big wooden thing, but whenever there was any sort of potato product, he would just go into a berserker rage and this bloodlust, and it was a hard character to play. And this was the first time that Larry saw that side of my dark creativity, and we were fast friends after that, like you wouldn't believe. Oh, you would believe it. You were there.
Well, and it's funny because I know that I kind of brought the two of you together. But it was very funny because even when I first met you, there was something that was very reminiscent about Larry, who was my best friend at the time, and so it was definitely. I knew you were going to fit in just fine.
you know, and but yeah, so back then it was like, you know, this was during the time where we could play silly campaigns, and we did that. We did the silly campaigns, and there were a lot of bus trips back and forth where I was literally learning with this guy's help to be a better writer, better creative, to really think about like not just character backgrounds but relation to the plot lines that are going on. And one of the biggest things was the story ain't always just about me. And that was one of the really big things that I try and teach gamers today. Wow, the chat is just going. Thanks guys. And
it's because I'm here.
Oh, really? Yeah, somebody's got an ego. Actually, it is. I'm not gonna lie about that. But yeah, during this time period, this was when, at first, I would read the books, I didn't understand it, and this guy would sit me down and he'd be like, "All right, what we got to do is we got to look at these books not as narratives, but as reference books. So let's turn to this page, let's turn to that page, let's turn to this page." And I'm like, "Oh, it's like reading the encyclopedia. I didn't understand that."
What a concept.
Yeah, right? But yeah, and then, from that point, we had a lot of interesting adventures. Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Sitting up. Thanks, guys. Oh, look at these guys. Yeah, look
See,
at
told
guys.
you.
Serious. Yeah, I'm here for the bear.
Thanks. Thanks, Vixen, and what is it, Garrett?
Yeah, just like
Garrett?
Bear.
Yeah, checks in the mail.
Yeah, and for the record, yeah, just to answer one question over here from the chat, Bear is 6 foot 4.5 and married, very very married. Yeah, it's yeah. So, just facts, man. Um, but yeah, but sitting up, yeah. So we did a lot of those adventures, um, and yeah. So can you, like, over the course of your gaming experience, could you share a couple of your experience that just kind of opened your eyes to a lot of the things that were out there? Because I know you were always welcoming at your table, but were there any experiences that showed you that your welcomeness at the table was, one, not the norm, and two, really necessary?
Damn, that's a good question. Um, yeah, I can definitely say that I knew that my table was not the norm. I knew that based on just other groups that I gamed with. Either they were very cliquey, unless you knew someone, you didn't get in. And I think I got in a lot of times to places like that because I happen to have a lot of friends, and it's like, oh, well, I know this guy who knows this guy, and I can vouch for you to get you into the game if you want. It was very Chinatown poker game almost, in a way.
Well, very secret society. It's
Very
like,
secret
yes,
society,
welcome to my game store.
But I think a lot of that was also because of the general culture surrounding it. Anybody who was outside of it didn't really understand. There was you had spoken about it last week, with the sort of like, the assumption of Satanism. You were either, you had these sort of 1950s Republicans who were like, well, not only are you just wasting your time, which is a cardinal sin for the culture who work themselves to death, but you're doing these things that are outside of the normal box, and so therefore it must be bad. And so it was definitely, I knew that the gaming that was going on at my house was definitely different because it was very inclusive, and because it was very story driven rather than rules based. I know plenty of times, and I learned this trick from Larry. Plenty of times when you really need something to happen to further the story, but they botch the role, so you have to either give them a creative way out to further the story, or just go ahead and give them the role. And so I think that was the big thing. I think a lot of the games that I'd gone to prior to sort of Larry and I really hitting the stride in our campaigns were definitely much more rules based. If you lost it and your character died, you were gone. Bye. See ya. We'll let you know next time we're campaigning.
Right, yeah,
As
dead,
opposed
like,
to,
out of the game.
yeah, oh yeah, you were done. You were dead. In fact, I even know a group. They were mad that I died, and so they just insisted, well, we're gonna. The GM was like, well, I've got a bunch of NPCs that are part of this, so why don't you play all the NPCs?
Okay.
Yeah, just to keep me around because well, I was fun to be with.
Oh, no ego. Yeah, no ego there. Yeah. No,
But
really, I
yeah,
hated this guy.
I think that was the big thing. Learning and teaching the creativity of the storyline. And teaching the creative thinking that was involved. In thinking your way around and out of puzzles and traps and things like that. We were very big on creating things that you had to, putting you in a box that you had to think your way out of. And so that was really different. But and definitely necessary, because I think especially once White Wolf came around, it was a little more story driven in that aspect.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so I think it was a little less rules based. They were still there, but it definitely focused a lot more on the storyline.
Gotcha, gotcha. Sorry about the quick flash that just happened there. I had to type a little something something into the comments. You guys that are watching this. But yeah, and I like that you bring up the whole like story based, rules based, and all that stuff because we talk a lot on this channel and on the Twitch channel about the different types of gaming styles and the importance of session zero so that everybody can sit down and talk about the type of game they want to play. Are they going to like what genre? And are we going hardcore rules? Are we going if you die, you're out? That kind of thing. And that's really important as far as like the social contract goes, so that everybody knows what they're in for. Um, so yeah, given that, it's really one of these things. Yes, some folks are just cursed, but I like that you brought up the cliquish, the difficulty of getting in, like the gatekeepers, because I'm not a big fan of gatekeepers. Hell, I'm not a big fan of gates. Though I got to fix one tomorrow, I'm not a big fan of them. When it comes down to um, the idea that this thing, and when we started doing Renaissance Fair, it was something that I'd come across because Renaissance Fair full of gamers, but one of the things I noticed was something that Paul Mansfield once said. Most of the people that are around that are doing these niche things want to be King Poop of Turd Mountain because I don't know, maybe it was the fact that I watched Reading Rainbow until it went off the air, or that I watched Mr. Rogers well into adulthood. I always figured that the misfits and the nerds were a combined force. Like we should be allies because we have come together on this thing that we like. And it turned out that a lot of them, I guess, wanted to be more. I guess they wanted their turn to be the jerk. It's like, well, I've been made fun of for liking 16th century Renaissance poetry. I've been made fun of for liking to play D&D. I've been made fun of for, liking engineering and stuff. So now I'm in a new place. I've reinvented myself, and now I'm the biggest guy that's around. Look at me, derp, 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 derp. And
I
I'm
don't know
like,
that I would say wanted their turn to be the jerk. I think it's part of human nature that everybody wants to feel special. And if you find a niche where you actually have some usable knowledge, and you can become, king of Turn Mountain, you know, I think a lot of people will take that throne, you know, despite how it smells.
yeah, I suppose. And I don't believe that power corrupts. I just believe that power attracts the corruptible.
Yeah.
Might need you to turn down your mic just a little. I'm getting feedback, just a little. I'll turn you up over here.
All right.
Look at that. All right, cool. Look at all that. All right. So only if you roll a two. That's cute. um, you know. So yeah, and so yeah, over the summer of '92 and the year of '92, '93, that was where Bear had left. He had left um, the high school because he was too old to stay there. But he left behind his agents. He left behind, as last week, as I compared this guy to the Fezzik to my Inigo Montoya. Um, Not that I was that drunk all the time anymore. um, but yeah, I was the man with a mission. I have a goal. I have a goal, and I'm the one with the accent. And then he left behind our dread pirate Wesley and our bard. Um, that were also in the garage back in those days, that were still in school. And this was the opening of, I suppose you could say, my South Bay tribe. Because these are all guys that I had to go south to see. No more trips to the valley. This was the opposite direction, where it was a more diverse, residential type place. Because this guy, if you guys remember a earlier episode, I was talking about how, Carson was the place where people in my neighborhood aspired to move to. Like that was our Bel Air. That was like, hey, are you a black person with a successful job? Move to Carson, because they ain't gonna want you in the valley. And so this guy was already there, with a really diverse community to pick from. I remember the block because we'll get to it way later on in the shows, because I eventually moved into this guy's garage.
Who didn't? Who didn't?
Peter? Whoever.
Yeah,
Peter?
all right, there's one.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure Garrett Smith over there in the chat hasn't moved into that garage yet.
That we know of.
Yeah, it's true. Well, he's in Denver.
Now.
Yeah. Fair point. So when I moved over, and I remember the block, and there were people of every race, religion, creed. I mean, like the direct neighbors, if I recall correctly, were Asian, and a lot of other people on the block. I didn't feel like a chip in a great big cookie. I felt like a chip in a bowl of trail mix, that had like, not the good trail mix. I'm talking like that stuff you get from the gas station. So there's like peanuts and raisins and M&Ms and chocolate chips and all that other stuff.
Yeah, we definitely weren't the good trail mix.
Yeah, no, not the healthy stuff, because we were swinging swords at each other. But yeah, so that is a lot of the stuff that we were getting into. And yeah, guys, this was actually a pretty good year for me. So not every year was the riot, okay? Not every year was 92. So yeah, and truth be told, that was, a lot of good stuff. And what I talk about in our gaming groups or in a lot of things is that the friendships that you make from playing these games and getting to know these people can last a long time. This guy and I have been friends officially for an entire generation. I mean, that's...
Damn, has it been that long?
Again,
holy
27 years.
27 years.
27 years.
Yeah,
that's a big thing. 27 years. I mean, my daughter is old enough to have her own kids. Not that she's gonna, but and we look at, the people in our extended social circle who have kids or who are starting to have kids, and we're going, yeah, I'll be there for your kids' college graduation. That's why my back hurts. But yeah, and these are things like, this guy, when it came to gaming stuff. Now, I mentioned last week, and we're running a little over because we got company. We're running a little over, but this guy, had this thing called a car that I had heard of. And, he was actually like, I'll let you know, one of the big reasons that you fell in favor with my mom, who sends her love, by the way, was that this was one of the guys that was willing to come to our house. And that was like a big thing, especially when you live in a ghetto that was just on fire. And,
you know why, right? You know why, right?
Know
why it didn't even faze me?
I
didn't think twice.
I never asked that question. You were a ride.
Because my grandparents had a house in Baldwin Hills, Inglewood.
Okay.
And so, and in fact,
right. They didn't run away during White Flight.
That's right. They in fact, when the blockbusters would come by, my grandfather would chase them away with an axe handle. So that's the that's the culture that I come from. That's why my table was always open, and that's why we didn't judge.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, 90th and Hoover, sure, that's like halfway to grandma's house. Okay, got it. You know.
So sure enough, this guy would be coming over, and my mom would be like, "Man, you a big mother, shut your mouth, ain't you?" And but because he was a nerd, and because he was a writer, and because he had manners, which don't cost a thing, y'all. She was like, "You know what? No, you're just like one of my sons. So you win. You need help, I'm there, and all that other stuff. But if you mess up, I'm gonna be on you." And so that was the point where we actually became adopted brothers, because both of our moms dealt with us in that old Southern fashion, where it was like, "All right, don't let Ma Pam find out, and don't let Mama T find out, because Ma Pam will look at you and make you shrivel, then Mama T will break your jaw with some instrument." Actually, it'll be like Mama T will break your jaw, so that when Mama Pam is lecturing you, you can't talk back. See, they were working in tandem.
That I believe.
So yeah, and but yeah, I want to thank you for being on the show today, man. This is real big, and we don't get a whole lot of time to catch up because we're grown-ups. He's running his YouTube channel, I'm running my stuff, and this whole production thing and all the volunteer work. But thanks for showing up, man. Seriously.
Oh, absolutely, brother. It was my pleasure. I'm glad your audience was so into it that I needed to show up. So, I mean, that's very cool. It's nice to feel the love.
Hey, man, Deckers are Deckers. I'll probably give you another call when we go into the Black Sheep years.
Oh, yeah, sure, by all means.
But yeah, Deckers. Like I said, I want to thank you for showing up. I definitely want to thank the Deckers for going, "Oh, no, please get Bear on the show," and all that stuff. So shout out to you guys. And again, language. Yeah, and but guess what, guys? This is our time. I let us go a little bit over because of the technical difficulties that we were having at the beginning.
And because I was
here.
Show.
No, not because you were here. But we were having some technical difficulties because of the stuff that I was doing with the sound. There we go. But yeah, I'm being played out like I'm at the Oscars all of a sudden. So again, hold up. No, not there. Working on the new stuff. I've been talking about how I could have people on the show as remote guests, and people are like, "Well, I don't know," and all that stuff. But yeah, so #DeckerLife, and again, thanks. Where can they find you online and all the social medias and all that stuff there?
Big one is Guardians of Sacred Balance, all one word. It's my handle in the chat right now, but Guardians of Sacred Balance is going to be going live here probably within the next 30 days.
All right.
I broke my foot and had the surgery, so I'm kind of down right now, which means I've got time to start editing videos again. So that actually kind of helps. But yeah, Guardians of Sacred Balance on YouTube, guardiansofsacredbalance.com. At Gmail, same thing. Instagram, I'm all over the place.
Awesome. And thank you guys for showing up to this show. Of course, we're going to do a little more business time, but it's not like I'm down to my socks. But yeah, thank you guys for showing up. And if you guys want to join us on the show, it's too late. We're wrapping up because I got to go get some lunch or something. So with that, I'm going to say, pull up a keyboard, send us a love letter and all that jazz over at backinthedeck@gmail.com. It's BACKINTHEDECK@gmail.com. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube. Make sure to roll a critical hit on that subscribe button, and then follow it up by rolling a successful hit on that little bell notification, so that you guys get a little email from us saying, hey, guess what? We're about to go live. Hit us up on the social medias, being Instagram and Twitter. I think Snapchat, I'm not quite sure. At backinthedeck, just look at the @ symbol. That's BACKINTHEDECK. Join us on Deckers on the Book if you are part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy that we know as Facebook. And of course, head on over to SoundCloud and download some of our stuff and play it for your friends, because whether or not they know it, they're Deckers too. But with that, I gotta say thank you guys very much for showing up, and if you want to help us out a little bit more, then for less than 33 cents a day, you too can help Back in the Deck at patreon.com/BID_P, that's capital B, little I, capital D, _, capital P, and you get our archive with all of our shows talking about what we're watching on YouTube and game theory, no, not the spy kind, but gaming stuff, intersectionality. We try not to get very political because I don't want this to be yet another Trump channel, but that's what we do. And again, for as little as $1 a year, you get access, or $1 a month, $1 a month. You can have access to our polls, help us come up with new intent, and all that jazz. And it don't cost all that much. Seriously, major shout out to Shannon Lay, our new $20 patron, along with Paul Mansfield, who was our first. And so let us know what you guys are up to with all that stuff. And again, thank you guys very much for showing up. And remember that if anybody tells you that you cannot have the hobbies that you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, your disabilities, or your budget, you tell them that we said take those cards and put them back in the deck. This is Solar Branded Cinematic Sorcerer saying thank you guys for tuning in to How We Roll, and we will see you guys